Well, I think that there are a number of challenges that we're facing in the digital sphere. I mean, for one, we're a company that, although it is a global business and global brand, it's quite globally diversified. It's really a business that grew up a little bit separately in each of the regions. And so, one of the things we're facing is that, back in the day when we were a print advertising company, having print ads in Australia that were quite different from print ads in the U.S. really didn't matter too much. Very few people kind of cross both of those. But when you're on, social platforms, global platforms like YouTube or Facebook, all of a sudden those worlds collide. And you really have to have a lot of cooperation between regions, and you really have to sort of tell a singular story. It really doesn't make much sense to have a separate Facebook fan site for Australians and for Americans. So there's a lot of challenges around that kind of alignment globally. What I wanted to talk about today in terms of multi-channel retailing is that there really is a real threat to multi-channel retailers out there in the form of pure play online retailers. And I think that there are companies different sizes doing various things in terms of integrating store and web channels, but I think that the really companies need to leverage their stores to go on offense instead of defense. And so some of the examples of things that I want to talk about are the way in which you really need to bring the offline world online. And I think companies like Google have spent the first 10, 15 years of their life indexing the online world, and I think that they're going to spend the next 20 years indexing the offline world. And so it's really a question of survival, in my opinion, because there are a lot of natural advantages that pure play internet retailers have, and I think if you have stores, you better leverage them. You better leverage that inventory, or there's some real tough scenarios out there. Okay. On balance, I would say that a lot of the same issues persist, irrespective of geography. I mean, I think that that's really the big takeaway for me. I mean, I think I've been sensitive in traveling around to the different regions for my business about some of the nuances of different regions in terms of payment systems and operational nuances. But I think more is in common than not, and I think that that's always something that's great to get out of the office on the road to learn, because you always wonder about what's going on in different regions and how things are shaping up. So I think what I've learned more is that there's a lot in common that we have, a lot of shared experiences, and so to that extent there's a lot that can be leveraged across regions. Well, I think that certainly we do have a younger customer base that's really grown up online, and I think that so much of their experience is an online experience, and so I think to that extent you really do need to participate. And a lot of the things that have been talked about at the show in terms of transparency and participating in the conversation versus broadcasting your information, are really relevant. I don't think you can ever be a predictor of what the next sort of great thing is, but I do think that in those key channels you really do need to participate in the conversation. You can't do everything, and we don't try to do everything. I think we try to, in the social media space, for example, we really didn't spend a lot of time focusing on MySpace in our region because it was increasingly becoming a second-tier player, and so we decided let's spend a lot of energy on Facebook, and the same goes with YouTube. So we try to focus on key points of customer contact and really having real, robust conversations rather than trying to do everything and serve all masters. We do distribute our products through a lot of other dealers in addition to our own stores. So really focusing on communicating a single message across channels. It's very easy to kind of get lost if you're not telling. Customers, I think, have a relatively short attention span. So I think you need to sort of tell simple messages across the slew of channels that you're communicating in. I don't think that an immediate ROI in the social media space is necessarily the way to look at it. I do think that in the same way that you're going to provide good customer service in your store, you don't necessarily, it's probably difficult to calculate the ROI on that as well, but that doesn't mean you're not going to, be friendly and help your customer out. So I think, for one, ROI, not that you should throw it out the window, but that it's only kind of one part of the equation. There is sort of instinct and participation that are factors. Facebook is an important global platform. I think it's undeniable. And, one of the interesting things about Facebook is that it's not indexed on Google. Here we have 500 million people that are participating in the social network, and that's completely invisible to Google. So I think that you need to participate in that conversation because it's a whole other world that's, in some respects behind a door that's not, out there indexed in the rest of the world. So in some respects, it's, I was reading an article recently about this that I don't know that it's a threat to Google, but it's certainly something that probably makes them feel a little bit uncomfortable because they are pretty phenomenal at indexing the world. And here is, especially the online world, here's a space where there's tremendous amount of activity, tremendous amount of customers, and it's kind of off limits to them. So I think small or big, it isn't really the issue. I mean, our social platforms, average around, 300 to 400,000 fans per brand. And they're quite active, but I think the whole point of the internet is sort of a one-to-one communication. So you may have 300 customers, but if they're having a conversation about you, I think it kind of behooves you to participate in that conversation. I do think that, we're increasingly thinking about retail marketing in the context of the web. And so, just as an example, I think it wasn't that long ago, really, that, people used printed material to find information about your stores. They went to a phone book directory. I mean, it sounds kind of antique to even think about today, but that wasn't really that long ago. And today, you better have all your store content and information indexed online, through feed. So it's not really a campaign, but we obviously do spend a lot of time in terms of, we have a new line of board shorts. It's called the Cypher series, and it's a technical board short series. And one of the things that we're doing a lot of is really bringing the content, video content that typically ended up on DVDs and played on store monitors onto product detail pages, and really kind of telling the brand story deep in the site. I think a lot of traditional marketers get caught up in a sort of traditional purchase funnel, and they think sort of everyone comes in through the homepage and you need to tell these rich experiences there. The reality is that most people are kind of coming in through the side door. So if you're not really telling your rich brand story at all levels, at all points of interaction, they're going to miss that story. And so that's one of the things we try to do is kind of bring that rich content to all touch points. So the Cypher campaign can be down at your product detail page. It can be, on a monitor in a store, wherever.